Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Savvy Business Show. I'm your host, Hanneke, and business coach, and the creator of the Savvy Business Masterminds, where we help women to build thriving businesses with community, support, and savvy business strategies even, plus coaching. And with me today, we have Alessandra from Polina PR. And we are going to be talking all about how you hire your first intern. And Alessandra, I'm so excited to dive into this topic with you. But before we go there, I want to know more, or I want our audience to know a little bit more about you, how you got started, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Totally. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I run a PR and marketing business, and this summer will be 6 years in business, which sounds a little bit crazy to say, but I got my start as an intern, I have to say.
Oh, this is so cool. I love it. It's like little loop. Gonna tell us all about it.
Absolutely. I started my business pretty young, actually. Because I had gotten so much good experience, like throughout college and just afterwards, between internships and then other opportunities that opened up after that, like because of them. So yeah, I've been doing PR and marketing now for again, a little, like almost 6 years, with businesses around the city mostly. My clients don't have to be local, but they tend to be often. So, which is really fun. I just love to help work with other businesses and brands to help promote their story in order to help them reach their goals.
I love that. I love that. So of course we're in the city, and now we're getting like the 5 o'clock traffic helicopter is coming over. So sorry guys for the background noise. But I do want to say that yes, her clients are not all local, because I actually just referred Alessandra to one of my mastermind buddies who's in New York, and she was so excited about you and your work. So thank you so much for doing that for her, because she was so happy. She needed something, a press kit, right up front, and very quick turnaround, and Alessandra was able to just pull that together seamlessly for her. So that was wonderful. Now let's dive right into hiring your first intern. So I think the first question that people ask is like, how the heck, where do I even find interns? Like, where do I post to get interns? Like, where would you go first?
I mostly college job boards. I have had really good luck with some of the local colleges. Of course, in Boston, we have really, a lot of colleges to choose from, and really great colleges with great programs. I went to BU, so I'm a little bit partial. I have found almost all of my great interns through BU. I do think, there's a certain amount to be said for people who have had a similar background to you. They're kind of learning the same stuff. Of course, things are a little bit different, years later than they were then, but I'm sure some of it is similar. But yeah, I think pick a couple of colleges in your area. They don't necessarily have to be in your area too. It depends what kind of work you want. If you don't need to even have face-to-face time with the intern, a lot of stuff can be done on the computer or virtually, just the way a lot of people have virtual assistants. So you could even post to job boards that are schools that are not in your actual vicinity. But honestly, that's the number one. And I have had such good luck with that I honestly don't think I've ever hired an intern from somewhere else beyond a school job board, even though I know there are some other sites and things like that, just like there are the regular job board websites like Indeed.com and stuff. There are certain ones that are geared towards college students and internships. So you can do those as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So the job boards, and then someone else the other day was saying how you can actually also call the, is it the job center that they have so I didn't go to school in the US, so this is totally new to me. So if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about when we're talking about where to go with schools, I don't. I know the South African system pretty well, but not here. So, okay. So could you also just call, like, is there a job center at these schools?
I have heard that you can do that too. There is, like, I know at BU there is a job, like there is a specific communications, in the School of Communications, there's a job center specifically for those students. But I mean, yeah, I think it's great to cover all your bases. I do think that a lot of students don't utilize those tools and resources as much as they could. So you might actually almost cut down your potential pool if you're kind of going more for the direct access that way. Like I know they had like actual books and like, you know, different, I mean, back at the time they had like a binder with you know different things. So if you're going to actually go in person and leaf through, then that might be helpful. I'm not sure what they have now, probably something a little more sophisticated, but that wasn't that long ago. But I mean when I was in school and looking for an internship, I did it on myself by myself. You know, I did it on my own. I was, you know, in the middle of the night after finishing studying, I'd be searching on the job board looking for an internship. So just being able to do it online by myself, like through a system like that, was really I think useful, and I think you'd be able to reach a lot of people that way.
And I think you just brought up a really good point, is that the real quick starter, which most people are looking for, and the savvy people are going to be online in this day and age. They're not necessarily going to be the people who run to the job center to say, I need something help, right? So good point there about actually just maybe going for the online job boards. That's so cool. Now, the other question that I had for you was, so obviously everybody is going to be looking for something different in an intern in terms of skills, but how would you go about if you were to hire an intern? What would what would be the things that you look out for, or the skills that you're looking for, or the general things that you must absolutely include in that job posting?
I think you totally just touched on it with being like a self-starter, self-sufficient. For me, that's huge. I think that's one of the most important things for an intern. And of course, you know, sometimes people think they are that, or I think they can be that. So, you know, just because you put that in the description of the job doesn't mean you might end up with, you know, you have to also be able to kind of fill that out between, you know, having an interview or whatever you're going to do later on in the process, which we can get to.
Yes.
But I do always put that in the actual description. I say, you know, you should be a self-starter. You should be someone who's interested in just, you know, a go-getter, wanting to make things happen, figure things out, because I definitely think, I mean, I'm sure this was always the case, but I definitely think recently I've ended up, you know, talking to people who have had other interns who are, you know, they're like, you know, they kind of acted like they didn't know how to do anything, or, you know, it's like they don't even think to Google how to figure out how to do something like that. So I think that's so important. You know, if you don't know how to do something because it's not exactly something you studied in school, or, you know, maybe this company is doing it a little bit differently than the way you've done it before, like at least try to figure it out. To me, I think
Yes.
that's so huge. Just no matter what the industry is, the ability and the desire and the like just kind of wherewithal to realize you should just try to be figuring out the position and what you can do as much as you can. That's so important to me. I think that's almost one of the biggest things, more so than any other like actual skill, or, you know, the actual knowledge for something specific.
And so how would you, so I have had some interns, and some of them not so great and some of them amazing. But how would you go about, because I think that's definitely, you just now touched on a very important thing, that you want to suss out before you get stuck with an intern
Oh yeah.
in the summer and then you're like, there's nobody else that I can hire. How would you go about in like really making sure that they are self-starters, that they are people who are savvy, and they're not going to be the one that's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I find, you know, you can kind of get the first screening done through what they send you. You know, if they send you a resume and a cover letter, or even just an email, you can get a pretty good sense just from that, just in terms of, you know, how hard did they try to do this, and then the things that they put in there. So like for example, especially because I'm in the communications field, like sometimes they'll have a personal blog or some kind of online portfolio of work or something like that, and seeing that they have those things kind of shows me, oh, at least, you know, they're trying to do something. You know, they have a project outside of school, you know, they've tried to already start building something for themselves, especially, you know, if it's something like a blog or something. that's practically a part-time job, you know, sometimes depending on how well you do it. So if somebody's got something like that, I kind of know, okay, they're actually trying to build something, they're trying to do something. And then also as an added bonus, because you can actually see what their work looks like in terms of writing and creativity and stuff. Um,
Yeah, so important. That bit's so important. Like, so let's just quickly touch on that, right? Because most of us, I think, specifically in the solopreneur sphere, are often looking for people to help us with social media
mhm.
and PR. And that is such a key point that you just said there about, are they already doing something like that? What is their actual social media looking like? Or whatever you want help with. Because I think even in any field right now, it's such a competitive market that blogging has become a really big thing to kind of show that you already know what you're doing. So I love that you just said that. So that like brings us to that point. Now, I know I interview my interns before I just hire them, and so I want to know, like, what is your process when you go through this?
I interview. I tend to get pretty like too many good replies, you know, when I post something. And I get worried, oh, I'm not gonna be able to choose, you know, because I'm not the most decisive person. And sometimes I'm like, I want them all. But you know, you can only tell so much from just the resume and the initial outreach, whatever it is that they send you. So I do usually set up like a couple of phone calls. I don't want to waste a lot of people's time. I'm like really cognizant of wasting their time and wasting my time. So I try to really shave it down to as few as possible at that point. But I will say, like, I think I did 4 or 5 calls this last time that I hired someone, with, you know, 4 or 5 different people. I mean, not 4 or 5 calls with the one I chose. So I did an initial phone call with a couple of different options to get a lot more of a sense of who they are, you know, what kind of things they want to talk about. And you know, that's so important because I actually find that a lot of people, especially more so now too than even a couple of years ago, will kind of like apply to anything. Like I had people who were like, actually, I'm more looking for something like this. And I'm like, well, that's not even really what the job was. And you know, they had their resume tailored to the job, they had the cover letter tailored to the job. But then when I actually spoke with them, you know, they were like, either like, you know, one of them had actually graduated school and she was like, I'm actually looking for like a real, like a full-time position, or at least a part-time like paid position. And I was like, well,
No.
this is a college credit internship. That's what I'm offering. So, you know, those conversations are so important. And I think doing that over the phone is really good, because if I had done all of those, you know, in person, I think it would have wasted a lot more time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then once I've had those conversations and can tell who, you know, can talk well over the phone, string a thought together, you know, can actually seems really enthusiastic about what we'll be doing together. Then I try to meet in person with one, maybe two people. But that's like really when I try to only meet with the person that I think I'm going to actually pick. And I'm honest. I say, I'm pretty sure, you know, well, it's been different, I guess. I can't say that across the board, but this most recent time I was like, basically like, I'm hiring you, but like, let's meet up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it was more so just to kind of get started and go over stuff. But I have had ones that are more where the in-person meeting was more of an interview, kind of like
Yes.
interview, and it wasn't a done deal until after that. So it kind of depends on how much, you know, the sense you get and how sure you are about them, I guess.
And so that what I want to highlight through all of this, and I know this is one-on-one for our listeners, but sometimes we get so busy and wrapped up and it's just an intern, like, you know, it's no big deal. We just need someone to help us quick. But really being prepared and knowing what you're looking for. So getting clear on what it is that you want. Of course, you're going to get to that by writing out what you want. But then also when you're in an interview with them, have some really concrete, good questions that either if you've hired a team before, you can kind of go, okay, these are the questions that normally give me good like a good read on people. And then I do want to go in onto that like intuition, like listen to your intuition. This is an energy thing that you want to feel and look at. And as a business owner, you want to know what your strengths are so that you hire the opposite. Don't just hire mini yous. I feel like that's very important to remember, like, because you can often fall into that trap of wanting to do that, but remembering that you're actually looking for people who are going to bring the skill set that you don't have.
Yeah. Um, Yes, and I will say, I want to go back. What you just said made me think of one other thing too.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
After the phone call, I also ask for some samples or examples of work. So it's more so, I don't even want to meet with them in person if it's going to waste people's time if they don't, for especially like the ones I'm looking for, I want strong writing skills, social media skills, the certain things that I know I need to be helpful. So they also can send some examples, or sometimes I'll even ask them to do like mock up, like do a little project. It kind of depends on what I have going on at the time and how much I want to spend on it. Sometimes I'll make up a whole little project, nothing that's going to take a lot of their time. Because again, I don't want to waste a lot of somebody's time, and I'll only do that for like the one or maybe two people that I really think I'm going to go forward with. But
Yeah.
being able to see a little bit of their work can really help too. Uh,
Yes.
to know that it's somebody that you're going to be able to rely on, and that they have the skill set you need.
Yeah.
Um, and then I thought I was going to say something else based on where you had gone with that afterwards, but now I kind of forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sure it will come back to you. I think it was okay. So we said about like going with your intuition, going with your gut.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was going to say sometimes it's honestly more so about who the person is and getting a sense of how you'll work with them, or how they'll work. Again, I think number one for me is being a go-getter and self-sufficient and being able to do the work. That comes for me higher than actually having the skill set of what it is that I know they're going to be doing, because I think that's actually a more important skill than any of the actual concrete, communications or PR skills that I might want. Those you can build, those you can kind of work towards and work on and grow even throughout this internship. But if you don't have that, so that, yeah, that's more the intuition and being able to tell what kind of person they are. And for me, I think that's actually more important than the actual, tingking off all the boxes on the list I may have made.
And that's such an important point too to remember. Like you are really looking for go-getters, and if they're already like then and bye.
Yeah,
Not your person.
if they're
Like,
not going to email me right afterwards and say thank you and like here are the samples you asked for, something like that, like if that's going to take 3 days, that's a bad sign. I'm not saying I would never hire them, because again, they're
yeah,
still learning, but
yeah,
no, I can't wait 3 days to send
no,
media questions that they requested from a client. So if
yeah,
somebody has kind of that mindset where that's okay, that's probably not going to fly.
no.
But again, so much of it is they're going to be learning, and I think that's so important. And I try to keep that in mind above all else too, because again, I don't want to just be using someone to help me. I want to make sure they're getting as much out of it as I am. So that's also something that's always kind of top of mind for me, is that they're going to be able to learn.
So that actually now brings us to the next topic, or what that I want to dive into with you is, so how do you train them, and how do you make sure that you're meeting that, because we're busy, right? Like, so for me, the way I train people normally is I have like an operations manual, and there are videos upon videos about how things are done, right? That's more for my admin people. But then like for you, for instance, like what is your base training, or what are your base training strategies, and how you make sure that these kids are getting what you're wanting from them, but also what they need out of you?
I have this really simple document, which basically, outlines a couple things like, contact information and what your, hours are going to be, and these things. But then I have a couple questions on there too. Like, what are you really looking to get out of this internship? How, like, what are the skills you're looking to build, and how will you feel that you've had success in this internship? And I always have them fill that out at the very beginning. And I try to keep those things in mind throughout, and then to revisit it again towards the end. um, what I do, I mean, I don't have training videos or anything like that. I do think I try to structure things as much around them as possible. And for me, I think that's actually part of, making sure it is a symbiotic relationship and that it works together. And I go into it trying to be as kind of, I guess, as personal as possible. And I say, I want to be honest. I want you to be getting as much out of this as me. Just tell me what that is if and let me know, and just keep in constant communication about those things as we go. I'm going to ask you to do stuff. I'm going to show you how to do stuff. If there's something you feel you would enjoy doing more, or that you would get more out of, let me know. I'm happy to try to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also kind of just ask at the beginning, what is it, how do you work best? this is how I work best and this is what I would like to do, but how do you work best? And try to kind of come together there so that, I
Mm,
mean, I will be honest, most of them, you know, if they're students, they think, oh, this isn't like, you know, a big internship. Like most of the time they say, oh yeah, whatever you want to do is fine. You know, like they'll,
yeah.
these are pretty verbal.
I haven't learned yet.
But
Yeah.
I try to have them open up as much as possible in terms of like, you know, what will be best for you so that we can be working together as good as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. I haven't really thought about even asking that. As like, how do you enjoy working? Which now brings us to my next question, which is like, so how often do you tend to meet with your interns? Like, so obviously they're doing stuff with you every other day or however busy you are, but like do you have certain meetings in place where you're like, okay, every first of the month we're all gonna hop on a call and talk about stuff? Do you do
that's
that?
Well, yeah, so I do try to. That's what I do like about having someone who's in the city, because I do like to do in person. I've done kind of all different styles and types. So I do think most of it, especially in my line of work, can be done virtually. You don't need to be spending an hour commuting every day. It's not worth it. So again, but that's why they have to be kind of a go-getter. They have to actually be doing the work when they say they're going to, because again, this is a little different than maybe, you know, a virtual assistant where it's their job and, you know, they kind of have it on a whole different level. But I do usually try to find interns that can do most of their work from home, and we can meet either bi-weekly or once a month to make sure they're getting that face to face, just because sometimes I think it's easier to ask questions. Sometimes
Yes.
I think it's easier to go over certain projects just in person, you know, whether it's, you know, because it's something that's visual and you need to see it, or just kind of going over like, here's why I made these changes to something you wrote, things like that. I
Yeah.
think it is useful. And I usually do it face to face. I actually don't usually do phone calls, just because I also just think, you know, I don't know, I thrive off of face to face interaction. So I think that that's actually really helpful. I think it helps kind of, I don't know, get a little more excitement going and kind of keep the momentum going too, if you kind of just are there physically in person together. And again, part of that for me is wanting to make sure that they're actually getting as much out of it as possible. And I don't want them to be like, I interned for this person and literally never met her, you know?
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
there's a piece
horrible.
of that for me too, I think.
That's wonderful. Okay, cool. I love that. Okay, so you are definitely doing some meetings. Now, the other question that I have is, what are some, like, I'm just going to back up quickly. What are some red flags that people can look out for that they have to go, okay, definitely don't hire this person? Like, so you would say like, if they don't get back to you within a certain amount of time, this is all sort of general knowledge, right? Right. But what are some of the other things that you have noticed where you're like, yeah, wish I'd seen this up front? Or is there anything like that? If there isn't, that's totally fine.
I'm trying to think of some of the things that would make me kind of have. So I've actually never hired someone and been like, oh, I wish I had known this about her before, or oh, I wish I had gone with someone else.
Yeah.
I think I've been really lucky, and or I think I am pretty good at reading the
Yeah,
information.
I think that's more what it is. Like you
But
have your process down.
I think maybe, but I'm trying to think of what some of the things are of why I have not gone with certain ones. I will
Hmm.
say that I talked to somebody recently-ish who, you know, again, I do this for college credit, and I sometimes will give a stipend, and you know, there are certain perks depending on, you know, just because of what my clients are, you know, but I'm really clear and upfront about that because. I mean, that's huge, obviously. In certain fields, you can get a paid internship in communications. You usually can't, but I know that that's something that's important to people, especially for some like over the summer. And depending on the time, you know, you're putting a lot into it.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's
You
true.
want to like make sure that they're not. Well, also I think it's just establishing that work ethic with them up front. That just because this is school credit, you can't half-ass this.
Right. So I talked to one girl who I actually thought I was going to hire, and she was, oh, I love that it's so virtual because I wanted to go away like all of June. And like there were many things of why she liked how flexible it was, but they were a little bit of a red flag for me because I was like, well, you know, it is set days and hours, you know, it's set. And again, even with that, I'm pretty flexible. You know, if you're going to get this done, you know, at a different time, that's usually fine, as long as it gets done like by the day, whatever. But too much of that was a little bit scary to me. I was like, you know, this is a real job. I do need to know I'll be able to rely on you and count on you for those times, these projects. You know, feeling like this is a good job for you because you want to go on vacation the whole time is not really probably what's gonna be the best for us both.
Oh goodness, yeah. Oh, the stuff we do when we are young, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just thinking
don't
about
tell me
her
that,
just
you know?
saying this out loud. I'm like, no, you don't say that.
Right, bring that up after a couple weeks when you've shown that you can still get all this work done, even if you're not.
Exactly. Or just ask, like, so what, is there the opportunity to work virtually? Like, that's it. Like, don't go into too much detail.
Yeah,
She'll learn. She'll learn. All
yeah.
right. So now I kind of want to switch gears. That was very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. But now I kind of want to switch gears to Polina PR. And I know that you have a very exciting program coming out that's going to help people with their own PR strategies. So if you wanted to just please tell us a little bit what's it going to be called, like where can we get it?
Yeah, that is going to be exciting. That's something a lot of people that I talk to are kind of like, I know I need PR, but I didn't build it into the budget for, you know, my new business. Or, you know, I know I need PR, but I think I can do a lot of it myself, which is true. So I'm like, yeah, there's no hidden secrets in PR. I think people are always like, oh, there's gotta be something about it that I just don't get. That's why like people pay thousands of dollars a month for it. But I'm perfectly fine with telling you that that's not the case. There is no hidden secret. It is something that anybody can do. So that's why I've been putting together this course, because it's just about knowing what exactly to do and having the guidance to do it. But you know, most business owners, you have a lot of the skills that it would take to do it. Obviously, not everybody, but you know, you're probably already creating a lot of content. You probably already kind of understand like influencers and collaborations and this and that, and that's all kind of pieces of it that, yeah, so that's why I put this together, because I think there are a lot of people who can do it themselves if they kind of did walk it through step by step of here's what to do now, here's how to create your material.
And I think it's important to say that too, if you had the time, because I'm someone that's like, oh, no, don't have time. I'm just going to throw it to someone else to do it for me.
No, that's the main thing. And that's why I say, like, I'm not worried I'm going to be out of a job because
yeah,
do it. That's all it is. Time. And that's why, you know, it's my job, so I spend my days doing it, so I have the time for it. But if you have your job is something else, you don't necessarily have the time to do it yourself. So there will always be those people.
Yes, exactly. So let's go back to, so what's this program going to be called, or is it called?
I'm not sure if I really quite fully just decided that yet. It is all, you know what? That's a really good question.
What should we call it, guys? Give Polina some ideas.
To go, but now that you mention it, I don't think I fully decided on the name. I've just been calling it a DIY PR course, but it must be something much more catchy than that. Thanks for being on the spot about that.
I'm sorry. Well, it's going to be wonderful. I'm excited to hear about it. So the reason why I know all about this, guys, just to give you the backstory, is that Polina and I met at one of the Savvy Business Mastermind Nights Out that I hold mostly on a monthly basis. And she was telling us about this at one of the Mastermind Nights Out. So I'm excited for her to bring this to life. I've put her on the spot multiple times now. And
it will be on my website. I will let you know as soon as I decide on the name. We might need to talk about that. Maybe you have some ideas.
Yes, absolutely.
People have such catchy names for courses these days. You can't just, give it DIY PR.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Well, we are going to, by the time you watch this video, guys, this course should be out. So we will definitely link Polina. I always call you Polina. Alessandra. We will link Alessandra's website in the show notes, and we will be sure to mention the name of the course that we will have by then. In the meanwhile, if you need any PR help, then do reach out to Alessandra. And we are so grateful. Thank you so much, Alessandra, for spending your time with us today and for helping us through and navigating how to hire our first interns. It's very kind of you. Thank you for your time. And for the rest of you who are at home, we look forward to seeing you again next time. If you are brand new here, remember to pop us a question at the bottom, say hi, subscribe to YouTube if you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you can get these to your inbox. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next Savvy Business Show. Bye-bye.